Hello everyone, welcome to the CAD-CAM University. In this lesson 3, we'll be showing you the strategy, the operation, and the process to start milling your part. So we'll kind of do a recap real quick. We picked our CNC machine that we're going to be running on. We found where our coordinate system is. We also have our stock, and we also have our target. And we also covered what is inside of the settings. So at this point, we can start programming our part. Now, if we just open up a simple profile operation right here, you'll see that all of our dialogues are going to be set up the same if we're doing a profile operation as well as a pocketing. What we want to do is we want to start at the top and work our way down to the bottom. So first thing on the geometry page is the area that we are going to be machining. If we take one step back just a little bit, is our coordinate system. On this particular part, we just had one coordinate system. But if we were taking this part and flipping it and creating a second coordinate system, this is where you could go and select your second coordinate system or your third coordinate system. Okay, so right here is where we can go pick our geometry. This is the geometry that we want the tool to follow. Once we have that set up, we can go right over to our tool page. In our tool page, if we hit select right here, what this will do is it will open up our tool library. Now you can import in a tool library from an existing CAM part or a tool library itself, or we can come in here and just add any end mill, spot drill, anything that is in our list right here. Okay. As well as picking our tool data, and what I'll do is I'll come in here real quick and we'll grab this 16 millimeter end mill. And now I can come in here and I can choose what feed rates I would like it to have, what spindle RPM, if I want to have a separate spindle RPM for a finishing pass, as well as different feed rates for a finishing versus roughing. Now if we go to our coolant, this will have all our coolants that are available. If you see a red minus by that, that just means that this current machine does not support flood or anything that has a red line. What this machine does support is anything that has a green plus, as well as our tool change position. Now we kind of covered this in the settings video, but in here I can tell it for this particular operation I would like to do a custom. So I can click on user defined and I can come in there and change where I would like my table to move for a tool change. Working our way down the list here is our levels. So here is our start level and our clearance level, as well as our safety distance. So what it's going to do is it's going to wrap it down to 2 millimeters above the part and then switch into a feed mode to our upper level. Now, if we look at in this particular operation, we can have multiple chains at multiple different levels. So if we have multiple different chains at those different levels, I can click the variable level. But in this particular case, we'll just keep it as a constant. Now, starting right here, covering the levels, it is going to be based off of the top of our target. If I would like, I can choose the top of our stock, or user defined is where I can manually put those numbers in there, as well as a delta. A delta is going to be an additional to that upper level or the lower level by doing a plus or minus in there. So if I would like to start my upper level above, I can just put a positive number in there and you can see the icon pops up to be above the part level. If we had a minus in there, minus, you can see that the arrow goes down. Now, as I'm kind of clicking through this, and it doesn't matter what screen that we're on, if I'm unsure of what it's looking for, if I just get my mouse cursor over here, it will populate a picture of what it's trying to look for. So my profile depth, if I just hover my mouse over that, you can see that it's looking for the depth of cut. So we talked about the upper level. It can be based off of our target, which is our SolidWorks model, top of our stock, which is the stock of the model, or I can manually put a number in there, as well as our lower level. So we have a couple different options there as well. Moving on to the technology. I like to call this page where all the good stuff is, or all the guts of everything is. So right here, do we want our tool side to be on the left side of the chain, center of our chain, or the right side of our chain? As well as some additional options. Do we run CAD-CAM for our finish pass or clear offsets? What our depth type is going to be. So what I'll show you with that depth type is we have constant, we can do a define, or we can do a helical. Now helical is a real great one for doing like a circular interpolation. So it will do a helix going in there, but for right now we can leave it at constant. Now do we want that cut pattern to go zigzag or one way? Are we working with rest material, which stands for remaining stock, or are we trying to do a chamfer on the outside of that part? Now inside the technology is this will vary depending on the operation that you're using. So if we're using a drilling operation, it's going to be much less information in here just because we're doing a different drilling operation. So if we go on the right hand side, we have our offsets, wall offset and floor offset. We can do a roughing step with step downs in there. So if we want to equally step that down, I can turn on this checkbox here, as well as our finish passes. Now with our clear offset, what this will do is it will offset out our geometry and work its way into the material. So we can actually turn this on, and if we want to offset our geometry, we can type in a number in there or click the offset button and click where we'd like that to offset our geometry at. As well as when it's machining that clear offset for that geometry, we can have one way or zigzag turned on as well. Now in the link section is going to be always your lead in and lead off. How do you want to approach into the material? How would you like to approach off the material? So right here we have a lead in with an arc, and we have a lead out with the arc. If you'd like to use the same for both, you can just use the checkbox right here and it will gray out everything over here and look at the lead inside as well. Links between passes as well as separate areas. If I would like to keep my tool down in the cut, I can tell it to stay at the current tool path distance. You do have a couple options through here as well if you'd like to keep your tool down in the workpiece as it's doing multiple passes going through. Motion control is an area that doesn't get touched too often, but if you are working with a fourth axis, we can turn on our fourth axis right here, as well as miscellaneous parameters. In here, you will see this extra parameter list, which is created by your machine that you're using, and each machine is going to be determined on what's in here on your post processor. So if you're looking for additional features that your post writer has put in there, here is where you can come into your miscellaneous parameters. Thanks everyone. We'll talk to you shortly.